This is the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, hosted by David Charlton, and you're listening to this podcast to help you build your own mental toughness, so that you can support other people or your clients better. Either way, you will learn more about developing this plastic personality trait that all but guarantees that you will perform better and lead a more prosperous life. Success is very different to everyone. It's very individual. To some, it can mean earning more. To some, it's about medals or power. To others, it's about fame, getting fitter, or even losing weight. And in this episode, Olympian Aly Dixon shares her wisdom when discussing running at an elite level. Penny Mallory describes her journey to becoming the first and only female professional world championship rally driver. So they go on to tick off the bit around the mindset required to win medals and to be famous. Firstly, though, I'm joined by Robbie Thompson, who's going to tell you about losing weight and some key principles that can go on to help you. For people, I suppose, looking to lose weight and feel better in themselves?
Yeah, I think we've talked about there the tracking of the progress. So I think what people, if you're wanting to feel better about yourself, obviously you're not happy where you currently are. You don't look how you look. Perhaps you don't like how you feel. At that point, nobody wants to reference that. Draw attention to that. They don't want to step in front of a mirror. They don't want to take progress pictures. They don't want to step on the scales because they're like, well, why would I want to make a big deal of how terrible I look right now or whatever in their own view? But the problem if they don't is that they therefore have nothing to mark their progress against. So it's really important, I think, that you mark where you're starting, even if it was just, if the physical element of it was a huge problem and a huge barrier. Well, what are your energy levels like? What's your mood like? What's your motivation? At least get some scores on paper for that so you've got something to compare to, because so often you'll have conversations with people that say they're not getting any, I'm not losing weight, I'm not getting any fitter or whatever it might be. And you say, well, are you measuring? Well, no. Well, how do you know? How do you know that you've not lost weight? How do you know that you haven't, So I think encouraging people to track that progress, and then throughout the process, continue to do it. Even, maybe after 2 weeks, you're not feeling great, do it anyway. Just consistently measure and then get back to what you're doing and just kind of focus on that element of the habits, the daily things you need to do. It is really important. And then I think a big one is not just focusing on physique, it's focusing on performance. So I think everybody should be lifting weights and, doing some form of resistance training in some form, just even if it's, might just be body weight stuff, but we should all be trying to build strength and maintain strength just because it's so good for us in terms of our confidence, in terms of our health, in terms of as we age. So often with clients, their fat loss might be a goal, but suddenly they just love the feeling of getting stronger. You can see their posture starts to improve because of the exercises they're doing, but also just because I'm feeling better about myself here. I can feel like I'm squatting a weight now that I didn't used to think I could, and all of these things, I can run further than I used to be able to. So focusing on what your body can do, not just how it looks, I think is a big one. And then, we've talked a lot about that kind of process, not outcome, and actually enjoying the journey, which is something you hear a lot, isn't it? But I think having a purpose and having a goal is huge, and then seeing progress towards that is just the best feeling. Being a part of something that means something to you, and doing it every day on the days you don't want to, but still doing it and seeing the progress. That is such a good feeling that we all need in our lives and whatever it is we care about. And I think people can tap into that for their health and performance. I think that's huge.
And by tracking the numbers and continuing to track the numbers, it all links in there with it, doesn't it? The feeling of confidence and motivation when you do see the 1 kilo drop off, then the next 1 kilo, it all sort of nicely ties in together.
And clothes is a big one. Suddenly they'll be like, God, these jeans used to be tight and now I can fit. Clothes is a brilliant one of seeing you, because it's more of a long-term thing. You suddenly then, a few months down the line, you put on a pair of jeans and like, wow, these felt tight and now they feel great or whatever. So, it doesn't have to be numbers, but it's still reference points along the way. And I think Something I was going to mention on this, which I think is really important as well, is, I was mentioning about the reality of people's, expectations. I used to do some work with a supplement company a few years ago, and I remember going to one of the big expos and seeing all these people in the flesh that I used to see on the magazines. And I remember going into men's toilets, and there was this guy stood washing his hands, and I was like, that's the guy off the magazine. I follow this guy on social media. And I had this image of him as being this big, solid, muscular guy with this tiny waist, and just a guy that would have a presence if you saw him. And he was washing his hands. He was quite a small guy. And I was like, what the hell? And it made me realize there was so many people like that who, when they'd photograph them, it's all angles. It's all creating the impression of this person looking a certain way. And I think I can't claim this quote as my own, but I think it's from Phil Learney, who's a top sort of PT, and said, stop trying to look like the people on the magazines, because they don't look like that either. For a start, somebody will get in great shape, often for a magazine shoot. They'll get a load of pictures done over maybe a few days, and then they'll relax their diet a little bit, and they'll put on a bit of weight, and they'll, as we all would, very few people look in peak condition all year round. And then they'll put those images out on their social media all year round, but they don't look like that. And the same goes for that person who's in that image. They're oiled up, they've got their lighting perfect, they've got their posture perfect. And then if they bent over and just slouched, they wouldn't look like that anymore. And I think it's accepting that, if you suddenly see that picture of yourself at a party and you're like, oh, I hate how I look. That was just a moment in time. That doesn't mean how you know what I mean? It's kind of like if you were to change your angle, so just kind of lifting the bonnet a little bit on the reality of the fitness industry and media, and that's very much the case across the board. People will look a certain way, but if you saw them out of context, in different clothes and different lighting at different times of the year, they probably wouldn't look like that. So stop putting unnecessary pressure on yourself to look like that as well,
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because it's amazing what you can actually do with a camera too. I had a log cabin over in the Lake District until 2 and a bit years ago when I sold it. And I can remember getting professional shots done in the room. I'm trying to think about the bedrooms, you could hardly swing a cat. They were absolutely tiny. Come in with the fancy photography, and I'm looking, really?
Yeah.
Looked like you could get 2 king-size beds in the room, not 2 tiny little single beds. It was just amazing what you can do with a camera.
It's so true. And then you add filters and effects and Photoshop and all these things. And I think, I've worked with sort of a few celeb clients, and who've done photo shoots and been in magazines and done calendars, and there's often backlashes. So there's somebody, the press will get hold of a picture of somebody sat by a pool with, their stomachs rolled or whatever. And they're like, this is what she really looks like, but this is what a calendar looks like. And it's like, well, I don't think this is really a story. I don't think this shouldn't be news to people, because surely you don't think that she walks around looking like that all the time. That's ridiculous. But and you could see from the comments, people like, God, and people actually felt misled, because they were like, well, I thought that's what she looked like. And I think there's a lot in that. That's, the good and the bad, but I think it's just trying to just be more realistic about the whole thing. And yeah, maybe just, if nothing else, just moving away from the obsession about the scales or how you want to look, and shift the focus to how you want to feel and how you want to perform. And in doing that, invariably, the weight on the scales takes care of itself. How you feel about yourself takes care of itself, and you see positive improvements there, but not by obsessing over it, just by focusing on the process and chasing more physical goals,
I like that. That's a great way to finish the podcast. Robbie gave some fantastic value there, and I loved some of the questions that he shared. Being able to ask yourself good questions is a skill. It's a vital skill. In particular, I liked, how do you know that you are making progress? And how do you want to feel and perform? It's so easy to get lost when you're on the treadmill of everyday life and work that you often forget where you are, who you are, and as he stated, where you started. Many people then get distracted. Yet those people who are successful, achieving their goals, keep doing what they need to do consistently, daily. That's right, they have daily habits, which they enjoy doing, so they're able to enjoy the journey and really get stuck in. And as you know, If you're a fan of this podcast and a regular listener, you'll be aware that I actively encourage people to journal on a regular basis. And I'm going to share with you something I've been doing now for nearly 12 months. Every weekend, what I've done is I've made a note of my wins for the week, the challenges that I've faced, lessons that I've learned, and my commitments for the next week. And actually did towards the end of last year was to actually transfer these notes onto a big A2 size bit of cardboard. Wow, was that powerful, to say the least. Especially being able to see right in front of me in one place exactly what I'd achieved and the challenges that I'd faced and overcome. Having it in front of me in one place, it gave me a big boost, a big sense of achievement. And since then, I've got on to transfer those weekly notes onto this board on that regular basis too. It really does. It makes you appreciate how far that you have come. You notice also the little traps that you fall into. And it can really cement your knowledge that Rome can't be built in one day, that it takes time, it takes patience to reach your goals. You certainly can get there. You certainly can fulfill your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your desires with this approach. I'd encourage you to try it for a period and see how you get on. Please let me know what you think about. Please let me know your thoughts on this. And our next guest, Penny Mallory, goes on to share some insights into her mindset, how she achieved her successes in rally car driving. So I'm going to welcome onto the show Penny Mallory, who's going to go on to talk about her inspiring journey and the attributes that she has and that you can develop in order to achieve your goals and deal with stressful situations better. Hi, Penny. Welcome to Demystifying Mental Toughness. What I've seen from your content that you've posted on YouTube and from your book, I noticed one of the things that you mention is the impossible is possible. Do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit about your journey and where that came from?
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you for inviting me. I don't want to over-egg the pudding and sort of make it I'm some kind of superhero making the impossible possible. But I suppose what I was trying to say was what I thought I wanted to do, which was to be a rally driver, was out of the question. It really was an impossibility for me because I left home at 14 and I was homeless and I had with a heroin addict boyfriend and life was really, really grim. And all I wanted to do was drive rally cars. It was never, ever going to happen. It was a sort of impossibility, but it did happen. And I became the first woman in the world to drive for Ford and to drive in the World Championship in a world rally car. So that was beyond my wildest dreams. And the principles that I used to make that happen are available to everybody. So that's really my point, is that we can all do things we don't think we can do.
Do you want to tell me a little bit more about the situation there when you talked about being homeless and then turning things around?
Okay, so I grew up in a weirdly dysfunctional home. My mum, bless her, was very severe manic depressive. So she was drinking heavily. She was trying to kill herself one minute and then doing weird, crazy, embarrassing stuff the next. She was in lunatic asylums, as they called them in those days, most of my childhood. And I just was a very angry kid, very resentful, shut down emotionally, didn't talk to anyone, found it hard to make friends, all that stuff. Scared of my dad, didn't talk to my brother, just utterly dysfunctional and sort of void. I made myself void of emotion. And I didn't enjoy that environment. So when I left at 14, I never went back. And of course, you're not meant to leave home when you're 14. You're meant to have a sort of safe, comfortable environment. So I made lots of mistakes and had sort of living on the edge a bit. Although I quite liked it, it felt like an adventure. And no one was telling me what to do, which I thought was amazing. And I became super independent and super determined to do something with my life and to actually get noticed. So I'm really grateful to my parents and all the dysfunctional people around me, because it made me really tough and it made me determined and focused. And underneath all of it was the desperate desire to be noticed by my dad, although I didn't work that out for years. So when I got into a rally car, which is something I'd wanted to do, I saw it on TV when I was 6. It just stuck in my head. And I grew up with that dream just parked in the back of my mind, not really expecting to do anything about it. But like for a lot of people, you hit rock bottom, you reach your lowest ebb and you think, it's all over. And I remember very clearly thinking, before it's all over, I've just got to do this one thing I've always wanted to do, which is go to a rally school and drive a rally car, which I did. I borrowed some money. I lied and borrowed some money off someone. And thank goodness I did, because it changed the entire course of my life.
So when you got into rally driving there, I'm guessing you had a variety of different challenges that you had to overcome during that part of the journey.
Well, you'll know, because you understand sport. Motorsport is as expensive as it gets. You can't just be a rally driver. You need sponsorship. And I didn't have any money myself, but I worked incredibly hard to find somebody to pay for it for me. I borrowed actually tens of thousands of pounds. I lied and lied and lied to the banks. It took me 14 years to pay that money back, but it got me in a car, and I didn't care about the money because I just wanted to drive. Then I found some sponsorship. I just kept going until I found sponsorship, and then I became a bit of a novelty, a bit of a freak girl driving. And then I got some amazing sponsors. I was sponsored by Wash and Go and Pinnacle Insurance and Indesit washing machines and Femidom. I don't know if you remember that, the female condom. I had some amazing sponsors. And that was the secret to my success, in a sense, because you need money to get up the tree. So I was able to move teams, upgrade the car until I got to the absolute top of the tree.
Before you got to the top of the tree, it sounds like you were gradually building your mental toughness, if you like, along the way through those experiences.
I absolutely was. I didn't know I was doing that, to be fair. And you know as well as I do, it's all developable, it's all improvable. And I didn't realize that I was developing all of these things actually since I was born. But I became incredibly resilient and incredibly determined, and I didn't get distracted. And I was so focused, and it all was working really well for me. I realized that if you have those attributes, you can make extraordinary things happen. Some of it still took me by surprise. I've still wanted stuff. And when it happened, I was like, whoa, I didn't really expect it to happen. But I'm probably more committed than most people. I was prepared to give up absolutely everything in pursuit of my dream. And again, I'm quite a risk taker still. So I don't mind putting stuff on the line, because ultimately I believe in my ability. So maybe things like that, where I'm prepared to push a little bit further than most to get what I want, did make a difference.
Do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit more about that drive there and pushing to the edge?
Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly embarrassed about it, but I'm also really proud of it, because I suppose, and you'll know this better than most, Dave, high performers will block out certain things because their performance or the thing that they're after is the most important thing. So if I want to be Formula One world champion 6 times over, I'm going to have to make sacrifices to do that. And okay, I wasn't going to be Formula One, but I wanted to be a rally driver. I was prepared to make sacrifices. I was prepared to put stuff on the line. And I think most people probably wouldn't put on the line what I did. So I didn't have any possessions at the time. So I was prepared to leave my husband for it, my boyfriend. At the time, he became my husband. And then because I'm so focused and determined, my marriages don't work. I've been married loads of times and I'm rubbish at it. So there is always a price to pay for performing at that level, because you do sort of push yourself out of the ordinary mediocre thing. And most people aren't prepared to push themselves out of there, pay the price, because they want an easier life. I didn't want an easier life. I wanted that life. So I think a lot of this stuff is about a real commitment. And again, I talk about commitment when I'm doing my keynotes, and I talk about you can be committed a bit, or you can be committed. It's almost a bit like pregnancy. You're either pregnant or you're not. You're committed or you're not. There's not levels of commitment for me. And I was completely 100% committed to doing whatever I needed to do. But, I compromised my social life, my relationships, my work, my money, everything suffered because I wanted it so badly. So that's why it doesn't suit most people to operate at that level. Most people want a more balanced life than that.
How would you look after yourself in terms of your energy levels and in order to make sure that those commitment tanks were topped up?
I'm not sure that I was that self-aware, if I'm honest, at the time. I'm much more self-aware now. I think by achieving something, it gave me so much energy and motivation that I just set myself so I've always been a goal setter. I set myself a bigger boulder goal every time. And that's what energized me. That's what excited me. Because I'm like, wow, I've done it again. I've made it here. Right. I need another one. And I got there. I'm like, I need another one. So I was always on this relentless mission to do more. Again, that's not easy to live with when somebody's like that. But yeah, it's, I think it's just that focus energizes me. It still does, if I'm honest. But I think at the time, I wasn't aware that I needed to top up my energy or take a step back and have a good look. I was way too into what I was doing to have that level of self-awareness. And it comes with age, I suppose, doesn't it?
I'm pleased to announce a new sponsor for the show, Chimera Sport, who produce a range of sportswear and equipment to enhance performance and recovery, reducing injury occurrences. You'll find on the product section of our website, www.excellence.co.uk/products, access to our own Chimera Sport shop. I've personally tested some of the garments, and you'll find that the infrared sportswear has been clinically tested too, so it's great for fitness enthusiasts and athletes who want to push harder, go further, and recover quicker. Penny's mindset was or is something else. To her, success was all about high performance. And she's right in many of the things that she mentioned. The majority of people say that they want to achieve certain things, be that weight loss, be that medals in sport, or financial gains by going for promotion at work. Yet they don't follow through with what is necessary. They can't put up with some of the things that make them feel uncomfortable, like saying no to nights out with friends, missing weddings. The highly committed, or certainly the really highly committed mentality makes you different to that average Joe. And many people simply aren't comfortable with this. Penny clearly was. And yes, there were some downsides, as she acknowledged. Another thing I noticed is that many people are very good at setting goals. And they're good at looking at the detail of what they need to do to get there, to achieve their goals. However, from my work, the thing that I've recognized is often missing is that they don't consider the setbacks, the obstacles that they may face along the way. And the exercise that I mentioned earlier, prior to Penny's short bite, noting down those wins, the commitments, the learnings, and the challenges can help you in this regard. It helps you mentally prepare for further down the line. It increases your understanding of moving from A to B, recognizing that there's no linear path. And now, someone whose journey that again hasn't been smooth to the top of marathon running, Aly Dixon tells us about breaking a world record and becoming world champion. How different then is your day-to-day since you've gone full-time compared to, your training schedule when you weren't full-time?
The actual training didn't really change that much. What I was given, I had the opportunity to rest and recover better in between. So when I was working at a sweatshop, again, people moan about 0-hour contracts, but it was an ideal setup for me because if I had a heavy week of training, I could work 8 hours. If I had a lower week of training, I could work 40 hours. So it set me up perfect. But I do remember at times when I was doing marathon training and there was one Sunday morning, I'd literally ran a marathon in training and then went into work for 6 hours on the afternoon. So, it's not ideal. And as soon as I finished work, that meant, those 6 hours could have been spent horizontal on the couch recovering instead. And it gave us more time to, take myself off to the Pyrenees or to Kenya or wherever I wanted to go for training. But obviously, on the other hand, you're not working, so you're not earning the money. So it's kind of, luckily I had enough savings in the bank to tide us over financially. And I initially did it for 2 years. I said, right, I've got enough money to go 2 years and I still haven't returned back to work yet. So, but, it is like, your training load doesn't actually change if you do it sensibly and you do it correctly. it's your rest and your recovery, and, you know, you're taking care of the little things like getting a solid 8-9 hours sleep, then an afternoon nap, and you're not getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to get your training done. You're not in the gym still at 9 o'clock at night. Everything's, you know, you're training 9 till 5 and getting everything you need to do and getting the correct nutrition in at the correct times instead of, you know, eating pick and mix during an afternoon shift instead.
Yeah, and you'd be on your feet as well, like working somewhere like sweatshop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I notice quite a lot with different athletes in different sports when they take that jump from like amateur or to like going full time as a professional, how that can be like added pressure in itself. But it sounds like to you've fully embraced that and just it's kicked you on a level or two.
Yeah, I think because I was training full time whilst I was still working, and like I say, it was very flexible working. So most of the time, it was probably only part-time hours that I was working. But yeah, as soon as you say I'm a full-time athlete, there is that added pressure on you. But I was already at a level where, you know, I'd run a 2:31 marathon, I'd done a Commonwealth Games, I'd done a few World Championships. So it wasn't like I was still trying to make that big breakthrough. The only one that I had left to do was the Olympics. And, you know, it's kind of like, because it's the Olympics, a lot of people, they'll say, oh, you go to the Olympics, and, you know, but they never really take it serious because it's such a big scale and, you know, the pinnacle. So you didn't really have that extra pressure of kind of everybody, oh, you go to the Olympics. Like maybe it's in 2012, it would have been worse because it was the London Home Olympics. But I think pretty much a lot of the British public didn't realise that the Olympics existed in 2016. So, yeah, there wasn't quite as much pressure on you there. And, you know, there was always, again, the pressure that I put on myself because I need to make it work financially as well as anything else. And, you know, my parents would give us a lot of support and everything, and I didn't want to let them down. But, yeah, it wasn't such a huge jump to me because I was already on that level, and it was just a case of maintaining it.
Can you just tell us a little bit about this, the world record and the Ultra 50K? Because obviously it's such a long distance. You must have a tendency to like get ahead of yourself at times. How do you
That was the one thing that I didn't do. So it's not actually that much further than a marathon. It's less than 5 miles more. And that was the way I was kind of getting my head around it. And it's something I'd looked at a few years back, and I didn't look at the world record. I'd looked at the British record, that was 3 hours 16. And I looked at kind of my training runs. I'll train up to 27 miles when I'm training for the marathon. And I was like, you know, my training runs, if I carry on for a few more miles, I can break the British record just in training. So it gave us something else to aim for once I'd achieved everything else over the marathon. And yeah, I went into that race, and my big focus for that race was to win. It was World Championships, and I only ever intended to do one ultra, so I wanted to win it. And obviously I'd never raced beyond the marathon. I'd trained up to 30 miles. I'd done 2 30-mile runs in training. And I was very conscious of going off too hard and blowing up because, you know, although I say it's less than 5 miles more, that's, you know, it's half an hour of running. It's still a long way more when you've already ran 26 miles. And I was running along and I was feeling great. And to judge my effort levels, it was a mixed race. So the men and women went off at the same time. It was laps. It was like 5 times around this lap. And every time the men were going down one side and I was going up the other, I would shout over to our guys, go on, lads, you're looking really good, you're going strong and that. And every one of them after were like, how on earth could you do that? You know, we were like, literally, we couldn't even reply saying cheers or thanks. But that was my way of judging my effort levels. And I knew if I could speak like that, I wasn't, 95% eyeballs out. So I should still have enough left to not blow up in those last 5 miles. And then coming around the last corner with 4.5k to go, the team manager shouted to us, "You're going to smash the world record." And I kind of looked over, I went, "What is the world record?" I didn't have a clue because I'd never looked at it, because, you don't go into your first ever ultra and go, "Let's break the world record." So I didn't even look at it, and I didn't know what it was, what pace it was or anything. And then as soon as she shouted that, I just literally, put my head down and ran as hard as I could for those last 4.5k. And crossed the line, and I took, I think it was 80 seconds off the world record, which had previously stood for 31 years. So, it wasn't something I even looked at, never mind expected from that race, but it was an added bonus, and it definitely means that I don't have to do another one now because I've ticked all the boxes.
You haven't got the bug then to do another one and go further?
Not at all.
Yeah, you get some people who love the 100Ks and stuff like that, don't they?
I do think I could have gone faster if I knew what the record was and I thought I was capable of breaking it. I could have focused a bit more and gone faster. But, I've went 80 seconds faster than any of the females ever done before. And I know there's women out there could literally do that in training. You look at Bridget like Kosgei, and she runs 2:13 for the marathon. She could easily just jog on and run sub 3. In fact, run 2:45 probably. But they've never done it, so you never know. She could blow up in those last 5 miles. I'm the only one that's attempted it and done it, so I'll take that. And if somebody had went out, this time last year and ran faster, I might have been tempted to go back and try and get that record back. But at the minute, it's a good thing about the pandemic that's going on. It stopped people from attempting it. So if we can just have that for a few more years, over 50k. But, even if they did go out tomorrow and break that world record again, I'd still be in the record books as a former world record holder, world champion, and you could never take that away.
Definitely. No, it's an amazing achievement with all the hard work, and I can imagine the sacrifices you've had to do to make it happen.
Yeah. I don't like the term sacrifices, but there's like a lot of, I call them choices, because to me, I'm not sacrificing anything. Me giving up going to a party or something isn't for the greater good of somebody else. It's for my own benefit. So it's the choice that I make to do that. It's the same as I made the choice to go full time. I make the choice to spend 3 months of the year over in the French Pyrenees, where, life's really hard, having to run around the mountains and eat almond croissants. But, there's no sacrifices involved.
It was clear from this conversation that Aly loves running. It's a big passion for her. And similar to Penny, she only has eyes on the prize. In her case, success in her sport. Sacrifices, interestingly, didn't exist in her world. And it goes to show how different her thinking was to mine, the person who asked the question. And it probably explains why my best time in the marathon back in 2008 was 3 hours and 34 minutes. It's a pretty good time, but I now recognise could have done a lot more. Those takeaways I had, the nights out with friends, the chocolate bars, the puddings, and the fact I didn't train in the gym, I didn't strengthen my core. Never mind, in another life, maybe I can do it. I recognise I like those comforts too much, and despite loving running and having a drive to be the best I can be, I clearly don't have that world-class athlete inner drive to succeed at the highest level. Yep, I've learned something new about myself today. Despite tricking myself into thinking I was dedicated because I was running in excess of 50 miles most weeks, clearly I needed to do a lot more than that. Anyway, another thing I spotted is that not many people can actually say when they're running in excess of 3 hours that they don't get ahead of themselves. And that's true in everyday life as well. And that was really impressive. Being able to stay in the moment and not concern yourself about your tired legs, maybe in 2 miles, 3 miles, or 10 miles, that's amazing. I know I wasn't able to do that. That worried me. But that to me shows that Aly has a complete confidence and a trust in her ability, in her training, and importantly, that word's going to crop up again, in her process. And that comes through years and years of experience and great daily habits, and a clear focus. And on that score, if you're looking to build great daily habits and a clear focus, especially when difficulties occur, you're going to benefit from signing up to my online accelerator course, which is set up to help you achieve your goals faster and has a range of tools in there that can support you. Go on, check out my website, sport-excellence.co.uk, under products and online accelerator course. If you enjoyed this episode of the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast with David Charlton, do check out my website, sport-excellence.co.uk, and my online sport psychology resources. The Sport-Excellence website has essential resources for anyone looking to build their own mental toughness or the mental toughness of their athletes or teams, or if you want to achieve peak performance more often or optimal functioning. The Sport Excellence website has everything you need to keep moving forward and thrive. So go on, head over to sport-excellence.co.uk to find out more.